They sent me to kill the last dragon. But when I found him, he was already dying. For years, the sky above our kingdom had been empty. No rain, no clouds, just silence. A pale, endless silence that slowly turned our lands into dust. Crops failed, rivers dried, people began to starve. And when people are desperate, they don't look for truth. They look for something to blame. So they blamed him. The last dragon. My father, the king, stood before the people and promised salvation. He called it a holy war. Said the dragon had stolen the rain. That killing him would bring life back to the world. And then, he chose me to lead the hunt. Not because I was the bravest. Not because I was the strongest. But because I was the easiest to lose. Quiet princess. No suitors. No purpose. Still grieving a mother no one spoke about anymore. I was never meant to return. Only to make his story look noble. We marched for 3 days into the Deadlands. Forests reduced to black skeletons. The ground cracked like broken glass beneath our feet. Even the wind felt hollow, like the world itself had already given up. And then, we found him. Not in a mountain of gold. Not surrounded by bones. But alone. In a hollow of ash. The last dragon. He was nothing like the stories. His body, once massive and powerful, had withered. His scales looked like cooling stone. Cracked and gray. One of his wings was torn so badly. It hung like a broken sail that would never catch the sky again. I could see his ribs rise and fall with each slow breath, like he was holding on to something that was already gone. My soldiers raised their weapons immediately. Spears ready. Fear turning into anger. But the dragon did nothing. No roar. No fire. No movement. He simply opened his eyes and looked at me. Ancient eyes. Deep amber. Filled with something I didn't expect. Not rage. Not hatred. But exhaustion. The kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from battle, but from carrying pain for far too long. And in that moment, I saw myself. I don't know why I stepped forward. Maybe I was tired too. Tired of pretending. Tired of being strong in a world that had already decided I didn't matter. The soldiers shouted at me to stop, to stay back, to remember what he was. Monster. But I didn't see a monster. I saw something broken. So I kept walking, step by step, until I stood right in front of him. Close enough to feel the dry heat of his breath. Close enough to hear the slow, heavy rhythm of a heart that was struggling to keep going. I raised my hand, and instead of a weapon, I held out the only thing I had left of my mother. A small wooden music box. It barely worked anymore. The sound was soft, fragile, like it could disappear at any moment. I wound it gently, and as the quiet, trembling melody filled the empty air, broke. Not the way a princess is allowed to break. In silence behind closed doors. But completely. I cried for my mother. For the starving people. For the life I never got to live. For this creature in front of me, who looked like he had been carrying the weight of the entire world. Alone. My tears fell into the ash between us. And for a moment, nothing happened. Then the dragon exhaled. Slow, trembling breath. And a sound came from him. Not a roar, but something deeper. A low, aching hum that I felt in my chest, like grief, given a voice. And then, he moved, slowly, carefully. He lowered his massive head and rested it on the ground in front of me. Not in defeat, not in submission, but in something far more fragile. Trust. The soldiers fell silent, because nothing about this made sense. The monster wasn't acting like one. No, wasn't afraid. But that wasn't the truth I told them. That day, I told them the dragon was dead. And they believed me, because it was easier than accepting the truth. I sent them away. And I stayed. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. I gathered what little water I could find. Melted ice from the edges of the Deadlands. Found bitter roots and herbs that barely held life in them. I spoke to him. Even when I thought he couldn't understand. I told him about my mother's laugh, about the way she used to hold my hand when I was afraid, about how quiet the castle became after she was gone. And in return, he gave me something I didn't even realize I needed. He stayed. At night, when the cold became unbearable, he curled his body around me. His warmth was fading, but it was still enough to keep the darkness away. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. Then one night, everything changed. What I saw next, I wasn't ready for. He showed me the truth, not with words, but with something deeper. Memories. I saw the sky as it once was, alive with storms and light. I saw him flying, strong and free, painting the heavens with fire. I saw him hiding from humans, not out of fear, but to protect them, to give them space to grow. And then, I saw the world begin to fade. The rivers drying, the air growing still, the life slowly disappearing. And that's when everything broke inside me. 'Cause I understood. He didn't steal the rain. The world was dying. He was dying with it. He wasn't the cause. He was the last piece holding it together. And when he was gone, everything else would follow. I didn't understand it then, but I was about to find out what that really meant. The final day came quietly. No warning, no storm, just a stillness, so deep it felt like the world was holding its breath. His eye was open, but the light inside it was fading. And then, my father returned, with soldiers, with anger, with the need to prove he was right. He looked at me, sitting beside the dragon, and his face twisted with fury. He shouted that I had failed, that I was supposed to die, that this was never about saving the kingdom, but about giving the people a story. But I didn't listen, because none of that mattered anymore. I placed my hands on the dragon's face, and for the first time, smiled, not because I was happy, but because I understood. You can rest now, I whispered. You don't have to hold on anymore. His eye flickered, just once, and then, he exhaled, final breath, long and soft, like the world itself was sighing, and the light disappeared. For a moment, there was nothing, silence, stillness, and then, the sky broke, vain, heavy, endless, alive, falling from the heavens, like the world had finally remembered how to cry. The soldiers shouted. My father screamed. But I stayed where I was, my forehead resting against the dragon's still body. As the rain washed over us both, they say I killed the last dragon, that I saved the kingdom, that I fulfilled my destiny. But that's not the truth. I didn't slay him. I didn't win. I simply stayed, when no one else would. And sometimes, the thing the world fears the most is the only one that understands your pain. The only one who stays beside you when everything else is gone.